Previously on Episode 2, The Gifts of Death. Detective Inspector Mark Evans begins his quiet pursuit of Damian Shaw, MI5's off-the-books enigma, sent to protect Brigadier Victor Carlyle. But Victor has already vanished without explanation. The Black Hand is suspected, but no one truly knows what they want, or how far they'll go to get it. At a glamorous ballroom event, Damian thwarts a silent assassination attempt with clinical precision, exposing that the threat has already infiltrated their social circle. A drink laced with a drug, a fake police stop, a nearly flawless plan, intercepted just in time. Tensions rise between Damian and Charlotte as trust deepens into something far more dangerous. Meanwhile, Chen Feng's mysterious interest in rare herbs turns into a violent ambush. Damian survives an expertly planned trap, barely, and is saved by a hidden sniper and Mark's unexpected arrival. But the real horror strikes back at the estate. A synthetic gas attack knocks everyone unconscious. When the smoke clears, Charlotte is gone. As Damian races through the fog of betrayal and misdirection, all clues point to the same name, Black Hand. Now, with Charlotte missing, the household fractured and the clock ticking, Damian prepares to step into the lion's den. Welcome to Episode 3. Chapter 15. Heavy clouds blanketed the sky, casting a grey sheen over the road ahead. A faint drizzle fell across the hills of Lake District as D.I. Mark Evans's motorcycle carved its way toward Georgeland. Damian sat quietly behind him, still and lost in thought. Mark slowed as the rain thickened. "How do you plan to find them?" he asked. Damian's voice was flat. "We look for traces, signs they've left behind. Is there a place nearby, low profile, where outsiders gather unnoticed?" "Yes," Mark replied. "A small inn near the turnoff." "Take me there." As they approached, Damian suddenly said, "Stop." His gaze locked onto three men in a nearby garden. One face was familiar, the man from the ballroom. Mark noticed a woman waving from across the field. "Give me a minute," he said, dismounting. Damian nodded, but kept his eyes on the group. Casually, Damian approached the orchard caretaker, striking up a conversation about irrigation while observing the suspicious group closely. This was no coincidence. Chapter 16. Charlotte woke slowly, disoriented. She sat up, fighting dizziness, recognizing nothing. Soon, a man appeared at the door. "Your father wants you." She followed shakily, entering a room where Brigadier Victor sat bound, surrounded by armed men. Victor's eyes met hers, desperate and helpless. A broad-jawed man stepped forward. "The documents, Brigadier, or she dies slowly." Victor clenched his jaw. "Never." As they moved toward Charlotte with a gleaming axe, an explosion rocked the room. Thick smoke filled the air. Chaos erupted. A strong grip pulled Charlotte and Victor into the night. "Who are you?" Victor gasped. "Damian Shaw. Move fast." Hidden among rocks, Damian checked Charlotte and reassured Victor. Soon, lights appeared. Mark and the police approached. Damian handed the scene over, providing minimal explanation. Chapter 17. Superintendent Robert arrived to take Victor's official statement. Victor repeated Damian's carefully crafted cover story about blackmail threats from Black Hand, omitting details about El Fantasma. Charlotte, still shaken, questioned Damian privately. He reassured her calmly but firmly. It was necessary. Later, Victor found a dagger stabbed through a threatening note signed by El Fantasma, demanding documents or threatening death. Damian advised Victor firmly, "Reveal the truth to your trusted circle. We need a united strategy." Victor agreed, determined to fight alongside Damian. Chapter 18. At exactly 5 in the evening, a red gas-filled balloon rose slowly into the sky above Brigadier Victor's compound. It drifted upward, silent against the pale light of the setting sun, a signal to El Fantasma that the terms had been accepted. All eyes were fixed on the sky. No one spoke. The weight of what was about to happen bore down on every guest like a vice. Earlier that day, Brigadier Victor had revealed the truth. The name El Fantasma had finally been spoken aloud, shattering the last illusion of safety that lingered in the house. Ignacio Valverde had heard the name before, as had Chen Feng. It was not a myth among men of influence. It was a warning. El Fantasma did not operate in shadows. He was the shadow. That evening, a reply had come. A dagger, embedded in the frame of the drawing room door, its tip driven through a folded piece of parchment. No one had seen who delivered it. No one had heard a sound. The letter, written in the same unmistakable hand, gave clear instructions. The brigadier was to deliver the documents himself or assign someone he trusted to a fissure at the base of Black Rock near Devil's Crag. The time, 9 o'clock sharp the following evening. He could bring whoever he wanted, but if there was any deception, retaliation would be swift and final. Around the dinner table, the conversation was terse. "This is not the work of a man," Martina Valverde said quietly. "No ordinary person can infiltrate a guarded home and leave such messages unseen. He's a ghost." "He's not a ghost," Damian said without looking up. "He's worse." Martina turned to him. "How do you mean?" "He's someone who understands fear so well, he makes people believe he doesn't exist. That's the most dangerous kind of man." The table fell silent again. "I have a suggestion," Chen Feng said, voice steady. "But I would prefer not to speak in front of the younger ones." "You may speak freely," Brigadier Victor said. "There are no innocents left in this house." After the younger guests excused themselves, Chen Feng continued, "I've followed El Fantasma's name through cities, nations, and closed rooms. He never sends others to collect what's important. If he's asking for the documents, it means he will come for them himself." "Then we should trap him," Ignacio said. Victor gave a dry, bitter laugh. "You don't trap El Fantasma. You survive him." "You're wrong," Chen Feng said firmly. "He's not a phantom. He's a man. That means he can be cornered, caught." Damian finally spoke. "You think someone in this house is working for him?" Chen Feng met his gaze. "I'm certain of it." Victor looked between them, startled. "That's a serious accusation." "It's a necessary one," Chen Feng replied. "Think, these threats, these letters, the way he always knows our next move. Someone here is passing information." No one spoke. Damian said quietly, "Then the plan should be this. We set the drop. But we don't go alone. We go early. We observe. And when he comes, we strike." Chen Feng nodded. "That's the only way." "I will not involve the police," Victor said at once. "Then we go without them," Damian replied coldly. Later that night, the four men, Victor, Ignacio, Chen Feng, and Damian, walked through the darkness, crossing rough terrain toward Devil's Crag. The wind was sharp and cold. Their flashlights cut thin lines through the night, illuminating nothing but stone and shadow. They arrived at Black Rock just after midnight. It loomed in the dark like a waiting beast, a jagged slab of earth that rose out of the land like a scar. Below it, narrow caves and crevices lay in tangled rows. The ground was damp, the silence unnatural. Chen Feng crouched low, studying the rock's face, noting every hollow and edge. "This entire formation is a natural trap," he said. "We hide our people here, wait until he appears, and close in from all sides." "You'll need men who won't run," Damian said. "You won't get that without police." "No police," Victor repeated. "Then we do it with whoever we can trust," Ignacio muttered. "If such men exist anymore." Damian turned and stared into the blackness beyond. "He'll come, alone, but armed. We'll only get one chance. If we miss, there won't be another." Then, without warning, he stepped back from the group and began walking into the shadows. "Where are you going?" Chen Feng asked. Damian didn't answer. "Damian?" Victor called after him. But the night had already swallowed him. His voice drifted back once, cold and calm. "Don't wait for me. Watch the rocks. You'll find your ghost." And then he was gone. Not even his footsteps could be heard. Ignacio looked around uneasily. He's either mad or El Fantasma himself. But no one answered. Only the wind replied, moving through the rock like a whisper. Chapter 19. Morning broke over the Lake District with a bleak, windless stillness. Inside Brigadier Victor's house, every guest and family member was on edge. Victor had left hours earlier, alone, carrying the sealed packet meant for El Fantasma. No one had been able to dissuade him. Damian had been missing since the previous night. They had searched the cliffs and caves around Devil's Crag, but the darkness had swallowed him. No trace, no sound. Even Charlotte, who had tried to conceal her concern, now showed signs of restrained panic. At noon, the Brigadier returned. His face was drawn, fatigued, but his movements were calm. He sank into a chair, the silence around him so complete it seemed to dull the air. "I placed the packet," he said quietly. There was no one there. No sound, no signal. I left it where instructed and came back. He looked around the room. "I think it's over. If El Fantasma meant to retaliate, he would have done it by now." Then came the sound, cold and unmistakable. Damian's voice, followed by laughter. A moment later, he stepped into the room, his air rifle slung over his shoulder, a brown packet in his hand. "Well done, Brigadier," he said. "You showed real courage, walking straight into the jaws of a phantom. Fortunately, he let you return." Victor stood slowly, his gaze locked on the packet in Damian's hand. "What is that?" Damian unsealed the packet and emptied its contents onto the floor, blank sheets of paper scattered at Victor's feet. "What?" the Brigadier stammered. "What is this?" "You placed decoys," Damian said. "You thought you could deceive a man like El Fantasma." "That was the real packet," Victor insisted, voice shaking. "I prepared it myself." "No," Damian said coldly, "because I replaced the real packet myself last night." For a moment, silence. And then Damian raised his voice, his tone cutting through the room like a knife. "I am El Fantasma." Charlotte's gasp broke the stillness. Ignacio stepped back, eyes narrowed. Chen Feng's hand moved subtly toward his pocket. Damian's arm snapped up. The air rifle was no longer slung. It was aimed, steady, precise. "Don't move," he said to Chen Feng. "You were planning to capture me last night. Now tell me, do you still think you're in control?" "Brigadier," Chen Feng barked, ignoring the weapon trained on him. "This is madness. You've let a fraud take over your house, a criminal." "Enough," Damian said, eyes fixed. "You've played your part. Now drop what you're holding." Chen Feng lunged. The crack of the air rifle sounded like a shot from steel. Chen Feng reeled backward, blood streaking from his arm. He staggered, but charged again. Damian sidestepped, struck him hard in the hip with the rifle's butt, and leveled the weapon once more. D.I. Mark Evans entered the room at that exact moment, just in time to see Chen Feng collapse against the wall, then turn in a final, desperate attempt to escape. He barely made it 2 steps before Damian dropped him with a sharp blow to the head. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Damian knelt beside Chen Feng, pulled him upright by the collar, and stared into his face. "You wanted to see El Fantasma. Look closely. This is the face you've been chasing." Ignacio's voice cut in. "This is absurd. He could be anyone." "He's El Fantasma," Damian said flatly. Then he looked at D.Y. Mark. "Search him." The inspector didn't hesitate. In Chen Feng's coat pocket, he found the real packet, still sealed, untouched. Damian nodded. "There's your proof." "You could have planted it," Ignacio said. Think back to last night," Damian replied. "Who insisted on seeing the packet? Who stayed with the Brigadier while he prepared it? Who made sure it wasn't handed to the police?" The Brigadier's voice was faint. "Chen Feng was there. The packet was with him the entire time." "Exactly," Damian said. "He tried to gain your trust so he could take the documents himself." Chen Feng, semi-conscious, let out a groan. Blood ran from the side of his head. D.I. Mark stepped forward. "I'm arresting him," he said. "But I want to know the rest. What is this 200 years claim?" Damian straightened. "You'll get a full report in 2 hours. For now, know this. El Fantasma's network was larger than you realize. Today, you've dismantled one of its central figures. He turned to Mark. And don't mention my name in your report. Damian Shaw doesn't exist anymore. Chapter 20. That evening carried an unusual calm across Brigadier Victor's estate. El Fantasma was no longer a mystery. The man behind the mask had been identified, exposed, and handed over to the authorities. For the first time in weeks, the house was not steeped in fear, and yet not all were at ease. Ignacio Valverde sat stiffly at the tea table, his expression locked in a shadow of guilt. It was difficult to tell whether he was grappling with the shock of the revelations or the shame of having unknowingly brought the enemy into the heart of his friend's home. Across from him, Brigadier Victor appeared more composed, relieved even. Charlotte seemed changed. Her silence had cracked. Her laughter was freer, as if a weight had been lifted. And seated beside her, Damian had returned, not to mystery, not to silence, but to a familiar mask, the one that concealed more than it revealed. Brigadier Victor turned to him. This whole thing about 200 years, I still don't understand it. Damian's gaze remained fixed on the horizon as he answered. El Fantasma was never one man, he said. He was a method, a system, a lineage without blood. The identity passed from one to the next, never to kin, never to children, always chosen, quietly, precisely. When one was close to death, another was appointed. And so El Fantasma endured, not as a man, but as a shadow cast across time. And now? Ignacio asked, his voice low. I don't think Chen Feng had the chance to choose a successor, Damian replied. So yes, for now the lineage is broken. The name dies with him. But his group? Ignacio pressed. Will they retaliate? No, Damian said. They won't. His network existed under fear, control, secrecy. For years, the structure beneath him has been splintering. Many of them lived worse than prisoners, obedient to a ghost, without knowing his face. Now that the name is exposed, the command fractures. Each one of them will retreat to claim what they can for themselves. There is no hierarchy left to avenge him. Brigadier Victor remained quiet, absorbing the magnitude of what that meant. After a pause, he asked, When did you know it was Chen Feng? Damian answered without hesitation. The first time he took me to the cliffs, he was too prepared, too cautious. And when we returned, Charlotte had disappeared. That timing told me everything. You saw him plant the dagger. Last night, with my own eyes. Charlotte looked at him, frowning slightly. Then why? Why did you credit Mark Evans with all of it? Damian turned to her. Because I needed to vanish. What? I don't want the name Damian Shaw connected to this, he said. Let the credit fall on the local authorities. Let the case be closed with a name the world can trace. But why? His reply came slowly, measured. There are people in this world who live quietly, watching from the shadows until it's time to act. When it's done, they disappear again. That's how I was trained. That's how I work. Charlotte held his gaze, but there was nothing left to read on his face. Brigadier Victor leaned forward. You said you used an air gun, he said, but it shattered Chen Feng's arm. Damian finally allowed the hint of a smile. It's a custom build, he said. Doesn't always fire air. Depends on what's needed. Victor stared at him for a moment. You're not who you pretend to be. No, Damian said. I never was. The sun dipped low behind the trees, casting long shadows across the compound. No one spoke again for some time, and Damian, eyes fixed on the darkening sky, already looked like a man preparing to disappear. Chapter 21. 3 days later, the story broke. A concise, formal report issued by D.I. Mark Evans appeared in national newspapers, chronicling the chain of events surrounding the so-called El Fantasma affair. From the arrival of mysterious foreign documents at Brigadier Victor's residence to the dramatic capture of the man behind the name, the report laid out the facts in clean clinical language, devoid of speculation, absent of flair. The final paragraph, however, offered a glimpse of what could have been uncovered. According to the report, had Brigadier Victor possessed a working knowledge of Chinese or Japanese, or had he consulted someone capable of translating the texts, the truth about El Fantasma might have come to light much earlier. Among the documents was a confidential report authored by a Chinese operative of the mainland Secret Service, written for his agency's internal file. In it, the operative made a striking assertion that the current El Fantasma was not of Mexican descent, but a native of China. Further, the Chinese source who had passed the documents to Brigadier Victor remained a point of ambiguity. D.I. Mark's report stated that it was still unclear whether the man had been the original author of the intelligence or a double agent working within El Fantasma's network, planted to deliver the documents only once they had been sanitized of actionable leads. Nowhere in the report was the name Damian Shaw mentioned, but those who knew the truth understood why. The report was not Mark Evans's work. It was Damian's. Every word, every omission, every framing of detail, it had been crafted with intention. By the time the ink was drying on the morning press, Damian Shaw was no longer in Lake District. No forwarding address, no goodbye, only absence. The man known as El Fantasma, Chen Feng, had regained consciousness once. Under medical supervision, in the early hours following his arrest, he had whispered his final words. He confirmed his identity. He admitted to the crimes, and with what strength remained, he delivered his final command. There will be no successor. Then he fell silent. The blunt force trauma to his skull proved irreversible. He died before sunrise. Whatever secrets still lived inside him were buried with him. And just like that, the shadow that had eluded global intelligence agencies for decades was gone, erased in one final operation orchestrated by a man who never once appeared in the official record. And just like that, the shadow vanished. The house is quiet now. El Fantasma is gone. The documents are safe. But questions still haunt the silence. Where did Damian Shaw go? Who trained him? And how many other ghosts still walk among us, waiting for the next mission, unseen, untraceable? Obscura Archives. The Gifts of Death has reached its final chapter, but the hunt is far from over. Damian Shaw will return. Another case awaits. Another darkness must be uncovered. Don't miss what comes next in the Obscura Archives. If you enjoyed the mystery, the mind games, and the shadows within shadows, like, share, and subscribe to Obscura Chronicles. Your next obsession is just one case away.